Welcome back to Breaking Down Bergman in part 2 of Wild Strawberries.
Då jag under dagen varit orolig eller sorgsen brukar jag för att stilla mig återkalla minnen från barndomens värld. Så gjorde jag även denna afton.
Isak, lilla. Det finns inga smultron kvar. Måste vilja att du ska leta reda på din pappa. Vi seglar runt udden och hämtar er på andra sidan ön.
Jag har redan letat efter honom, men jag hittar varken far eller mor.
Jag ska hjälpa dig.
So last time we wrapped up by discussing the meaning of the symbol of wild strawberries, but that is by no means the only symbol in this movie.
No, in fact, Wild Strawberries, the film, is just full of little tidbits that you can analyze and just break down. I think one of the more interesting things and one of the more obvious constant symbols throughout the film are the dreams that we see from our main character.
Yeah, the dreams are interesting because there's definitely a progression of what each dream is leading him towards.
And there's no time wasted getting into them. I think that within the first few minutes of the movie, we've already jumped into a dream sequence that visually, it's pretty obvious it's a dream sequence. And in fact, it is the most famous dream sequence from Wild Strawberries. It's been parodied and referenced left and right throughout film history.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about the dream sequences. But I think one of the interesting things is people wonder, like, what is the meaning of dreams? Do dreams tell us the future? Do dreams, are they somehow like apocalyptic in some way? You know, are they meaningful? And then there's the notion that while we sleep in our dreams, a lot of the time we work out our own problems and like our inner turmoil. And I think in this movie it's a little bit of both. So each dream foreshadows something that the character is going to come to terms with as he wakes up and gets a lot of realization around in his real life. So the first dream, which is the most haunting, you're right.
And very much heavy-handed. None of the other dreams are quite structured like this one.
Yes.
It establishes a lot. It establishes that Isak is sort of facing his final days. Literally, they throw a casket at us.
That's true. Yeah, so the dream basically foreshadows that he's going to be dying fairly soon. And I think he realizes that. So as he's going on this journey of reflection internally, both through his dreams and his own kind of like nostalgic throwbacks, he's also going on a literal journey in the present time as he's driving from one city to another, where he's going to a ceremony to receive a top honor for his career as a physician, and he's being, it's like a lifetime achievement award. And so the interesting juxtaposition here is that he has worked his entire life in order to earn this honor, and everyone is so proud of him for that, but yet they completely disrespect him as a human being. But he has never cared about that until now, when he realizes that he's about to die, and all of a sudden, with each dream, with each reflection, with each throwback, with each new character he crosses paths with, he realizes what he's missed and what he's failed to do as a human being versus a professional.
I think that there's also that wild contrast between the perceived knowledge that he has, both as a doctor accomplished in his field and as an elder who has experienced life, and everyone around him assumes has some sort of great knowledge about literally love. At one point he's actually rewarded with flowers by the younger kids, the teenagers, saying that he must be knowledgeable about love, and in fact he has a very tumultuous relationship.
I think it's interesting, that kind of fine line between knowledge and wisdom, right? And I think that's something that Bergman must also probably struggle with as an artist, is like being technical virtuosity in terms as a filmmaker versus what am I saying, like what am I portraying to my audience? Does this film make meaning as opposed to just be visually interesting? And I think we see that in the film here for Isak as an individual. He struggles with the fact that, yes, I'm a very adept professional, but I don't know anything about love. I don't know anything about myself.
But these dreams that we've been talking about are supposedly leading him towards some sort of answer for himself.
I think they are, but it's not a comforting one. And I don't think that when we come to the final conclusion, when he has his final vision of kind of his parents in the meadow that looks very much like the Elysian Fields, and it's all heavenly and peaceful and romantic.
Now, okay, let's talk about that for 1 second. Sorry to stop you mid-sentence, but we looked at that sequence quite a few times because it comes very abruptly in the film. And I mean, you know that he is probably in his final days. You kind of assume it throughout the movie.
Final hours.
Final hours. And then the sequence plays out. Literally, he is brought by his cousin in a dream to a body of water where his father's fishing and his mother is picnicking, I suppose. And he watches them. And then it fades to reality. And then the movie ends.
But what kind of reality? He's alone, by himself, in the darkness, with no one beside him, and no real hope of going to that happy place. Because the kind of dream flashback that he had earlier when he was watching his own wife, he was watching a scene of her having a really bizarre, violent
sexual encounter
with another man, right? That she was doing really in order to hurt him, and in order to, in a way, hurt herself just so that she could feel something. I think that was one of the things, is because he was so withdrawn and detached and clinical, literally, he's a physician, clinical about how he lived his life. He never formed those linkages with people. He never made relationships. There was never love in their relationship.
Another thing I found very interesting about the dreams was the persistence of mirrors throughout them. Of course, we've seen mirrors many times in numerous Bergman movies, and we've touched on them in a little bit of discussion. But I think that Wild Strawberries has the most mirrors we've ever seen, which is appropriate.
Yes, the most mirrors because, there's a lot of reflection going on in the film. But this is the first film, we've seen mirrors before, but they've just kind of been part of the set. Poignant, but part of the set. Here we actually have his guide, his cousin Sarah, who's taking him through the dream sequences. She actually holds up a mirror and says, "Look in this mirror."
Har du sett dig i spegeln, Isak? Inte det? Då ska jag visa dig hur du ser ut. Du är en gammal ängslig gubbe som snart ska dö. Men jag har hela livet framför mig. Titta, nu blev du sårad i alla fall.
Nej, jag blev inte sårad.
Jo, du blev sårad. Därför att du inte tål sanningen. Och sanningen är att jag har tagit alldeles för mycket hänsyn. Då blir man grym utan att vilja det.
Ja, jag förstår.
Nej, du förstår inte. Vi talar inte samma språk. Se dig i spegeln en gång till. Nej, du ska inte titta bort.
Jag ser.
Nu säger jag så här. Jag ska gifta mig med din bror Sigfrid. Han och jag älskar varandra. Nästan som på lek. Titta nu, du blir i ansiktet. Försök att le. Där ja. Nu ler du.
Det gör så ont.
Du som är professor emeritus borde väl veta varför det gör ont. Men det vet du inte. För trots att du vet så mycket så vet du egentligen ingenting.
What I think is so great about this movie is that there are just so many layers to it. And I mean, we could do part 3, part 4. I think there's just that much to discuss here.
Yeah, and I wish we could, because I have this feeling that we really didn't do this film justice.
I think that's going to be the challenge with a lot of these Bergman films, though. We just have to pick certain points and discuss them. And I think that that's what opens it up to the viewer. If there are things that you've seen in these movies that you really enjoy, post about them, discuss them with others, and just let us know what you think, because we're very curious.
We are, honestly. We would love to hear other people's opinions on the film.
That leads us to the inevitable question, is this essential Bergman?
Hands down essential Bergman.
Yeah, I think there's no dispute here between us. I know I'm going to get a bit of flack for this, but I think that Wild Strawberries overall is a better film than The Seventh Seal.
Blasphemy.
I think it's true. I mean, The Seventh Seal, though a fantastic film in itself, Wild Strawberries is just as good. It has all of that complexity, but it's a little bit more accessible.
Actually, I completely agree.
And I would prefer to talk about this one over dinner with somebody.
Dinner and wine?
A lot of wine, maybe.
A lot of wine.
So, we are going to be returning next time with Bergman's film Brink of Life. And join us then for another episode of Breaking Down Bergman.